So we got our punch set and we got our extractor set. And today it's going to be trying to get that bolt out. So what I did was I put that film, or that little ring of Flex Seal around there so I could fill that with penetrating fluid so it could just sit and drain down and in. I'll fill it up again as I'm getting everything else ready here. But yeah, so this is today's job, and just pray that it comes out. Okay, so I think that's going to be my setup for trying to drill this out. Just to try to keep any of the shavings that may fall as I'm drilling out of that head. I might put another thing here and just kind of up, and so nothing flies in there. And then turn the vacuum on as I'm drilling. But here we go. Alright, so I filed it flat. Went ahead and punched it. That's pretty centered, I think. And now we'll just start drilling. Oh, I did want to check one more thing. Okay, so here's the head. The other thing I wanted to measure was how deep does that go? So what I'll do is I will measure the depth of that, and then I will also add whatever the distance is above the block as well once I get out there. And that'll tell me the furthest that I should drill, which I shouldn't drill all the way down. But yeah, so I'll do that. So that was 16.61 millimeters below the head. Okay, so the bolt sticking out from the block is 3.3 millimeters. So 16.61 and 3.3 is 19.91 millimeters. So what I will do is I will mark that at 19.91 millimeters. And just put a piece of tape roughly at that spot, and then I know I shouldn't go any deeper than that, and I'll probably take off a couple of millimeters just to be safe. Alright, so the hole is drilled. I know it looks a little off center, but that's because this side here got flattened out more. If you notice, it's not as rounded. So that's about in the center of the actual hole itself. So I'm figuring that's kind of really where the bolt's center is. All right, time to put the extractor in and see what happens. Well, shit. That extractor snapped off inside there. Now I just gotta try drilling the whole damn thing out and hope I don't ruin my block. We'll see what we can do. Well, I'm just tearing this sucker up so bad trying to get this frickin' bolt out. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And it just keeps getting worse and worse, everything that I try. And I'm only like 6 millimeters down. And that was 16 millimeters below the surface of the head. One fucking bolt. So, I'm going to take a break. Alright, so I've actually started using the Dremel to try to get this out. So I am now at 8.62 millimeters. So slowly but surely. Might go try to find a drill bit, but at least now it's more centered. And I'm not all over the place. And you can actually see there's still part of the bolt along the side there. So, I mean, I'm dremeling, but I don't think I even got all the bolts out. So, yeah, I'll just kind of keep going and see how I can do with this. It's slow going, but it's working better than a drill bit right now. But it's hard. So, you know, I mean, just look at the head, or look at the block. Luckily, I mean, this is way on the outside. You know, I'll sand that down, maybe put some RTV around that, you know, assuming that I can get this out and get another bolt threaded in there, but we'll just keep working on it. Alright, so the Dremel actually seems to be working pretty well. It's much more uniform, and I'm not tearing it up nearly as bad. It's just so, I don't know, camera looks worse than the actual block itself, but I ordered some other bits for the Dremel to get down in there and keep grinding away at it, and then I'll just buy a bigger bit, big enough to just completely get through that hole, and make it maybe just a little bit bigger if I need to, and just get a bigger bolt and thread it, and, you know, tap the hole. But yeah, that's what we'll do. But that stuff's not going to be here until Sunday, so I will put this on hold, I guess. Alright, so in the midst of everything that's going on with the block and everything, I decided to come downstairs where it's a little cooler and just do something a little more relaxing and zen. So I'm going to try to clean up my valves. I got new exhaust valves, but so this is an exhaust valve, so I'm going to start with this one and see. So we start off with the Scotch-Brite, and then we wet sand through different grits of sandpaper. So we're going to see how this comes out. I watched video. You put it in the chuck, and you use the drill to rotate it around the sandpaper, so it kind of takes the effort off of you and lets the drill do the work. So we'll just sand that up, or we'll Scotch-Brite that up, and we'll see what happens. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so that's after using the Scotch-Brite. It is a little bit cleaner. Kind of expected a little better result. But the next part is wet sanding, so I'm just going to review the video again, and we're going to just try to wet sand it a little bit. Okay, so sand it a little bit more with that paper, and got as much, I think, as I can off with that. And then the next thing is to start with 800 grit sandpaper in some water and wet sand it. So we're going to try that. So here's after the 800 grit. So there's still some discoloration. Some here. But the front, it's nice and polished. But yeah, there's still some here. It's almost like it's pitted versus buildup, but all right. Try maybe sanding it a little more. All right, well, I think that worked pretty well. So this is what it kind of looked like before, and that's what it looks like after, and that's only with actually 800 grit sandpaper. I mean, the steps call for, you know, keep going up and up and up, and I'll do that once I get the intake valves. But Yeah. You can see it's bent. You can see the curve to it. If I turn it this way, it looks pretty straight. But when you turn it this way, you can see the bend, little bend right in there. So yeah, so I think I'll try it on one of the intake valves. All right, so here's the number 1 intake valve. As you can see, I mean, it's not nearly as dirty as the exhaust valves, and you wouldn't expect it to be. So, yep, we are going to go ahead and try cleaning this up, and we'll see how that does. But so there's the before. I wanted to show this. This is the intake valve. Notice how there's no wobble. So, I mean, that to me is pretty straight. Okay, that was after like 30 seconds with the Scotch-Brite. You can see that's pretty clean. I might do a little bit more right there in the center. But yeah, I mean, definitely not nearly as bad as the exhaust valve. So we'll do that, and then we'll start with the 800 grit, and I'll show you after that. Okay, so that's after 800. So I think we'll go up to 1,000 and see what it looks like after 1,000. All right. So there is the valve. Look at how nice and polished that is. So that was Scotch-Brite, 800, 1,000, 1,500, and 3,000. So just so a comparison, this is the intake alpha valve number 2. This one's a little worse, but just so you can kind of see the difference. It turned out really nice, actually. And what I'll do is I'll pull out one of the new intake valves too, or the exhaust valves that are brand new, and put it next to the intake to see what the comparison is. Okay, so there's the new exhaust valve right here. And this is the intake one that I polished up. This one's got like little ridges in it. You can kind of see. I don't know if that's really supposed to be there. I would think polishing is, you know, just easier airflow. Not as much friction. But I don't know. But yeah, so there's a comparison of a brand new exhaust valve and then the polished intake valve of mine. All right, there we go, all shiny and looking brand new. So no wobbles on those. So they all were straight. That's how they came out. So really happy with that procedure. So Scotch-Brite pad, 800 grit, 1,000 grit, 1,500, 3,000 in some water. Water's kind of nasty, but nice and smooth. So I found this interesting too. So I would assume that, see how that wobbles? Now these are my exhaust valves, and I'm wondering if that little bit of a wobble is because that valve is bent just a little bit, because you would think it should turn smooth, but we'll see. Okay, so here's exhaust valve number 2. See the wobble? The intake valves didn't do that, so that's 1 and 2 for the exhaust valves. There's valve number 3. Not as much, but you can still see it wobbling. Here's exhaust valve number 4. Yeah, tell me that's not bent.